Today we will take a look at the concept of conformity in social psychology. We will begin by broadly covering what conformity is, as well as what factors contribute to it. We will then discuss a recent research experiment on conformity and look at how conformity might play out in our everyday lives. Conformity is described as the change in beliefs, opinions, and behaviors as a result of perceptions of what other people believe or do. Social influence encourages us to engage in conformity to fit in with the group or to be accurate. For purposes of this presentation, we will highlight two types of conformity, normative and informational. In normative conformity, we conform to social norms to be accepted or not rejected by those around us. We can think of examples of recycling when others are watching, or even forming a line in the grocery store. Often, this type of conformity is done with little to no cognitive thought. Informational conformity, on the other hand, occurs when we are conforming to someone who we believe has accurate information. For example, I might conform to the suggestions of my physical trainer for my workout routine, or solicit my friend's advice on which movie to watch on Netflix. In informational conformity, we are utilizing cognitive resources to compare ourselves to others and gain more insight into our own opinions or beliefs and determine if they are accurate. Now we will take a look at some factors which might influence conforming. First, we look at some social factors which can increase the likelihood of conformity. These might include the size of the group. If it's too small or too large, it might have less influence. How strong is the relationship of the group? Is the group all in agreement? And even how well respected or liked is the group? Next, we can discuss some personal characteristics that might impact the chance of conformity. Is the situation confusing? If you have no idea how to react, you might be more likely to follow the group actions. Does the person feel like their freedom is being restricted? If so, they might go against that. Does the person have a sense of self-identity, or are they in a group which requires they assume traits of the group? These factors contribute to the likelihood that a person will conform in a given situation. In order to demonstrate how conformity might be researched, I chose to highlight a study by Hai-Yi Zhu and Bernardo Humerman. The experiment was designed to assess the roles of external opinions, aka the opinions of other people, and social conformity pressures on the choices of individuals. In this experiment, participants were first asked to identify their preferences from pairs of items. Then the experimenters gave the participants access to the opinions of other people and measured the changes to the individual's preferences. For example, if they changed their initial response. In order to conduct their study, the authors first presented experiment participants with pairs of images and asked that they select their preference. Participants were not shown the preference of others during this initial selection. For example, a participant selected their preference between two photos of couches with a short text prompt. Your friend wants your opinion in selecting a love seat for their living room. Which would you suggest? Next, the authors manipulated some of the participants' preferences by introducing the information on the opinion of others when displaying the pairs of images in the second round of selection. Other participants were not given the opinion of others when asked to complete the second selection. The image pairs displayed in the second selection were the same as those displayed in the first selection, where people selected without the opinions of others in both cases. Experimenters then measured if individuals changed their preferences when given access to the opinions of others. In order to further examine whether the timing of others' preferences or the number of others' preferences would play a role in the experiment, the authors then manipulated the time elapsed between the individual's first selection, the one without the preference of others, and when they were asked to perform their second selection with the preferences of others available to them. In some cases, participants were asked to identify their second selection of preferences immediately following completion of the first selection, while others were asked to make their second selection after completing several distractor pairs, allowing some time to pass between the selection they made without the opinion of others and the second selection they made with the opinion of others. Additionally, the authors manipulated the amount of opposing opinions participants were given in their second selection. They were given opposing opinions in ratios of 2, 5, 10, or 20 to see if the number would also play a role in their responses. Again, they measured the social pressure for conformity in terms of whether participants changed their preferences from that initial selection and in their second selection. Though each experiment group yielded some varied results, for example, a higher response rate for 5 opposing opinions rather than 20, overall findings of the experiment support the role of conformity in our everyday lives. Results from the experiment showed that as many as 32.5% of the participants changed their preference when presented with a second selection after they had been exposed to the opinions of others. While our confirmation bias leads us to seek out information which supports our own opinions and beliefs, the human desire to conform can greatly influence our behavior and choices. This concept is particularly influential in our modern society, where individuals have virtually unlimited access to the preferences and opinions of others. With the growth of social media, online marketing, which includes consumer reviews, forums for sharing opinions online like Wikipedia, Yelp, Rotten Tomatoes, things like that, the access to preferences of others is shaping and changing individuals' behavior. The experiment itself represents methods for evaluating conformity in that an individual's preference, their thoughts, feelings, behaviors, are compared when they are alone, without the influence of others, against their own preferences when exposed to the opinions of others. In order to demonstrate where we might see conformity in everyday life, I chose to give an example of workplace dress codes. While on his lunch break from work, Ryan Smith, a young professional, sits outside enjoying the sunshine and observes people entering from their own lunch breaks. During Ryan's observations, you might have noticed a couple people wearing very similar outfits when entering the office. Later that night, when Ryan is trying to decide what to wear to work the next day, this will come back into play.
Wonder what I should wear to work today. Yeah, we'll go blue shirt, black pants.
The shots of crowds featured in this skit were taken in Charlotte, North Carolina, a major banking center in the U.S. While companies within Charlotte often do not require specific dress code, it is clear to see that conformity pressures and social norms have influenced how individuals might dress. The actor featured in the previous skit shows how this normative conformity might influence those choices. If you were to sit down for lunch in Charlotte during a workday, the number of blue shirt, black pants you observed might surprise you. So, why is conformity important? We've taken some time to describe two main types of conformity, as well as looking at current research and how conformity can influence our everyday lives. An understanding of conformity can help us take a look at factors that might be influencing us to conform. Are we engaging in normative conformity to fit in with a group, despite what we actually believe? Are we relying on informational conformity by perceived experts and not trusting our own opinions? I hope that the information in this video will help you evaluate when it might be ideal to allow social pressure to encourage you to conform, or when it might be best to stand out from the crowd.